Thank you. So thanks for coming. Today I will try to tell you a bit about what we have learned while working on early access game. So as already said, I'm currently leading the team of animators for DayZ. I will show you some of those things that we have actually went through. So this is just short outline. We will just shortly take a look at Bohemia, DayZ. Then we'll take a look at team tools and how to manage those. We will talk about challenges of early access, some benefits, and we will try to find some conclusion to that. So the Bohemia Interactive team is quite big now, actually. So the company was founded in 1999, so it's already quite some time. The offices are now in Prague, Brno, and in Mníšek and Bratislava, with some even more upcoming. More recent project is Arma 3, Take on Mars, and DayZ, and currently there are a few unannounced projects in the works. So the DayZ, which is the thing why we are here now. So what it is, it's a game quite different than the others. Actually, you don't have any tutorials, any guides, any help that will take you through the game. So you are thrown inside like post-apocalyptic world where you have to survive. The worst enemy in the game is actually the other players, who will try to kill you and hunt you down. And also we do have some kind of zombies. So there is a short video I prepared for you where you can actually see most of the basic mechanics of the game, and also we will take a look at some common animations and things that are actually players are able to do in the game. So since the survival is a big part of the game, obviously there are a lot of user actions like eating, drinking, and a lot of environment interactions. As you can see on the footage, so the players are actually playing mostly against each other, but there is also role-playing a lot on the DayZ. So we are trying to support that by giving players a lot of interaction animations where they can use different gestures. They can like role-play basically. So because of that, the game actually has quite a lot of animations now. So we are trying to make players feel they actually see what their character is doing. So we are trying to give a lot of animations for different situations and different items. Players usually form some kind of team and they try to play in teams against other groups of players. So you can see there's a lot of different animations for like waving, pointing out, or even surrendering. There are also vehicles in the game. And another aspect of the game is survival. So obviously we have to have a lot of animals in there so you can hunt and live in the woods. Yeah, and it's a zombie as a final one. So, as already mentioned, the game is basically defined by players. So they create their stories, they create their exciting moments. I have picked a few screenshots from the community, so you can actually see what's the game about. And my favorite one. So, To get to the point where I can share some of the insights from the early access we have, I have to tell you about the background of the development of the game. So originally, the DayZ was a mod made by Dean Hall for Arma 2. It became quite soon very popular, so many hundreds of thousands of players started to play that game. And it was kind of inevitable that the mod will have to become one day a standalone. So at the very beginning of the development, there were only few devs working on the game. From the very beginning, we basically knew the game has very different needs than the Arma. So we started to modify the engine, which was DayZ made on. So one of the first things that had to change was the networking, obviously, since it's a multiplayer game, and the cheating is a serious thing in those games. So also along with that was the new inventory system in progress. From the animation perspective, the Arma 2 had very old and outdated animations and animation character. So we started to change the skeleton for the DayZ, which eventually meant that we have to redo all the data in all the animations. And of course, since the game is so different, a lot of animations was missing in the original Arma, so we have to start working on that as well. There's an important point in there. So at the beginning, there was very different animations format, data format for game. It's actually still in there, but I will talk about this later. So as the game was progressing to the alpha release, new people were joining the project, and we had to define some basic rules. And so somewhere at the beginning of autumn in 2013, we had set the alpha requirements, and from animations team, that meant we had to bring all the character animations for movement with rifles and different items, which was quite a big load of work. So we added also first gestures, which became a quite big thing later on. And in December 2013, the game was released as alpha in early access on Steam. Just at the time, the Steam was having a Christmas sale, but despite that, the game became #1 top seller. So in first 24 hours, there were like 172,000 copies sold, and in first week, we had already over 400 players. So we were aiming quite quickly. So in 1 month, there was 1 million players on servers, and so far we are somewhere around 3.4 millions. Which is quite impressive considering the game is just early access, unfinished, and still in progress. So obviously that could mean only one thing, that the game has to become bigger and better. So we started to add new content. There were more animations, more items, more animals, vehicles were introduced. And quite big changes started to be worked on in 2015. So since then, we have new renderer, new audio system, and new physics. And now we are working on the new animation system. So the new animation system, however, is very different from the old one. That means we couldn't just improve the old one, we had to replace him. So for quite some time, and still now, we do have actually in-game 2 working animation system, which is very difficult for data, because we do have still 2 data formats. That means there are all the animations twice. So once we reach the point we can actually switch, we will turn off the old one and we will start using the new one completely. So far, the animals and zombies are using the new system. But since the new one was constantly improving for the player, actually it's so different that the zombies will have to use eventually this new system. So, the animation team. Currently, we are 6 animators in Prague, which is the main DayZ location. But at the very beginning, we were only 2, so we didn't really need much of work. But after alpha, as we started to work on more things and more items and vehicles and guns, we needed to hire more people, obviously. So the people that are in my team currently are mostly technically focused. I will explain that. Although they are very good animators, they do great work on the animations, they are very technically skilled. So that means they can handle quite difficult tasks. And I think in this kind of environment, it's very important to think about that. The people in my team have different responsibilities. That basically means they are responsible for different parts of the game, which helps us a lot to make things faster. So some people are responsible for player character or part of it, since it's so big. The other guy is responsible for zombies, and someone else is for weapons. So when we need to change or fix something, we can just go to that person and do that right away. So at looking at DayZ, you can think like what kind of animation the game can have, because there's basically no story, there are no cutscenes, we only have player zombies and animals. But since we're trying to give so natural feeling for players, so they engage with the character and they live with it, we have a lot of player animations. So this is just some part of it. Basically, the player now has a different set depending on the items he is using, and these sets are even further adjusted by IK depending on the current item. So we divided the player moves into 6, and we are probably will add 7 and 8 sets. So either he is unarmed, he has a rifle, he has a 2-handed item or pistol. So every time he's playing quite a bit different animation. In game there are many user actions. So we have consuming different food or medicine. We have crafting, we have healing, fishing, hunting, and even harvesting, so you can farm a bit. The gestures, as I mentioned, is helping to roleplay a lot because people are constantly asking for more. So we extended the basic set, which was originally like 4 or 5 gestures, to currently 12. And we will eventually probably add more so they can choose the expression they like. Currently in game is 36 plus guns, and we are still adding more. So that basically means a lot of work for the animator who is responsible for reload animations. Since the game is so keen on details, we do have a lot of different animations for different reloads, depending on magazine, depending on bullet, depending on chambering action and such. And the last one is the vehicles, as this kind animations are quite big, since you can do a lot of things in those also. And we will be adding like eating and such, but that's for a different part. So the zombies are a bit more simpler. They have just basic moves like in different stances. They can stand, crouch, or crawl. And they can attack or somehow defend themselves. The animals, however, since there are like 25 and more animals already, they can have different behaviors depending on time and depending on environments. So if we count that, we have almost 5,000 animations for player. And this is still growing since we still don't have in-game or implemented the injured or wounded character, which will basically almost double the movement part. The zombies just have something around 300, which is quite nothing. And the animals are around 1,000. For the player and zombies, we usually do use our mocap studio, which we have in a different location. So let's go to the point where we actually talk about what we do to make these things easier for our animators. So when I was thinking about what actually is helping us to work on those amounts of data, I realized there are like just few things that actually help a lot. So at the very beginning, I would think the naming convention is very important. You have to consider that. The data structure will help you to orientate in your data and find older animations or files so you can update them. And obviously the tools and iterating process. So the naming. When I joined the company at the very beginning of DayZ, there was some naming convention for the data which was very annoying to work with. Although it was quite ultimate one, so you could basically define every possible animation with it and combination. It was very frustrating to work with those data because it was difficult to read, difficult to put into corresponding folders. So when we had a chance with the new system, we just said, okay, let's redo this, let's change this to something simple that everyone is happy to work with. So eventually we ended up with quite simple system which works with some kind of tags, I would say. So it's not important to include every information, it's important to include the information that matters. So in the example on the right, you can actually see there's example of some animations from our game. So basically we just say it's a player which is crouched and he's running forward. That's all. So that means he has no item, he's just running forward. That's enough. And it's easy to write, easy to read, and you can find this kind of animation quite easily. And it works well with some scripted operations if you need to rename a bunch of data. Data structure is like similar because you will do this a lot, especially on the early access project, but I would say on every project. You will go into folder, and you will need to find data. But if you design this structure wisely, you can make this process much better. The main thing that's important here is that source and game data needs to have same or very similar structure. So if you go and find some source, in our case FBX files, you can be sure that you will find in a similar location the game data, which will help you to remember where to put and when to find those. Another big thing is the exporter. So the old one we had was very clumsy. Basically, it didn't allow us to work very fastly, so we had to redesign that for a new system. And again, we thought, like, let's change it. Let's make it fun to work with. I will have a short example how that works for us. So the graph files, in our case, allow multiple people to work with. That was very annoying in the past because previously, with the old system, we could only work like one person with that file, which was considering the player has 4,000 animations. Not only one person needs to go inside this file, and multiple people need to do changes. Tools. So most important tools for animators, in my opinion, are the exporter, the editor, and the exact software tools. In our case, it's a motion builder. So as I mentioned, the export should be very easy and very straightforward. No obstacles, no annoying stuff. The editor should allow also fast preview so you can actually see what you're working, not to wait to implement it in game and see that running in a live game. You need to see that in the editor. Our motion builder tools also allow us to do repeated tasks fast. So instead of making 5 steps, we just do one by pressing a button. So in this very short video, I will just show you in real time how actually the exporter works. So we open an animation file which contains usually around 50 animations. So if you need to do some change, you just do the change. You place a key. You can see there's a lot of data in this file, but not to make anything complicated. We just do the change, animate, and export. The exporter will take care of the file location. It will take care of the file name. It will take care of the FPS. It will take care of the compression. If you want to change that, you can do, but usually you don't need to, because you probably did that at the very beginning. You can see there's like different checkboxes and different path files and such. This is all saved with the file itself. So next time someone else is opening this file, he will have this information as well. So he will just do the change, export, and that's it. So the animation is at the right location. You can check it in game now. So this was a huge change since the old times. And the other example is showing the repeated task. So, I need to play that. Yep. So it's basically just a tool which allows animators to preview characters and items. So since we have tons of them, we need to make sure there's like minimal or no clipping, although it's quite impossible to do with the amount of data we have. So this is just some helping tool that they can check collision boxes, the backpacks, the weapons. And it's saving a lot of time when checking before implementing in game. Yeah, so different clothing and different characters. A huge thing you will face while working on early access game is iterating, or redoing if you want. So since the game is already out, you never want to see, you never want the players to see like some unfinished animations or a very broken one. So you have to basically iterate like all the time. So since the very beginning, we probably have redone the whole animations, I don't know, like 5 times maybe. And you constantly improve them, but since the players probably won't see the change, they will just see a slightly better animation. They can kind of all the time feel like the game is working, which is good. So that's the main point of the iterating, that it allows to update the game content, and players can have the latest data with each update. And it should be quick for fixing. So it's very important to realize that while working on early access, you will have to do this a lot, change the data, replace it, or even remove it. So the team should be aware of this, and people should know they have to sometimes just scrap their work. Okay, so we're coming to challenges of the early access. In our case, it's probably just the visibility in this particular slide, because people, since there are so many of them playing the game in not final state of the product, they follow the development of that game, and media like to write about it. So it makes it very, very visible product. Updates doesn't help a lot, because you basically, in our case, we do have like 2 different updates. One is called stable, and one is experimental. The experimental basically is meaning that not completely bug-fixed game is released to experimental branch, where people can test it if they want. It basically means that your work can be released anytime. So you have to make sure the game is not broken or there is not missing animation. The stable, however, is much polished one, so that's quite safe. Another big challenge is definitely the technology. It depends on the engine you are using for your project. In our case, it was in-house system, which was, let's say, a bit outdated at the time the game was started. It basically, for us, it means we have to fight with the old system and the new system, and we have to make it work together. At the beginning, there was definitely a lack of tools which would allow us to make things faster and easier. And MMO, it doesn't help a lot because you can see a lot of bugs, although you make the game working well in offline environment. So this is just a screenshot of the old animation system or animation graph. It was very hard to work with. We actually had a dedicated person for that. So you can see it's just a mess. In another short example, I will just demonstrate how quickly we can do things in the new one. So this video is like twice faster than real life, so we don't have to wait for too long. But still, it has around 2 minutes. So in 5 minutes, let's say, you can make this the result at the end. So we're just now adding a different animation states that we will connect to the main graph. Although you can do that in the left graph window, the animator has decided to use writing. So once we connect that to the state movement, we actually have a walking character in 8 directions. And using the preview window, we can check our work right away, which helps a lot, so you don't have to run the game. So by adding another node, we will try to add some extra animation over this. In this case, it will be drinking from can. So in our game, players are very keen on interrupting actions and stopping animations, because if the animation takes their controls, they are very angry. So we would like to give them a choice to do or cancel things. So in this case, we have implemented drinking while walking in all directions, which is pretty cool. So since we already have most of the functionality done, now we can just add another node, which will be unpin grenade. And by connecting that to existing graph, we will have another animation working. So yeah, in 5 minutes, we have actually created like 8 directional movement with possibility to unpin grenade while walking and drinking can while walking, which is pretty cool, I would say. So, as probably many times said, main challenge is that we actually iterate on the live product. So, if we break animation, we are sure that players will see it next morning. So we are not allowed to make any critical bugs. We have to fix that before committing to branch. Since people can see working progress features, they can obviously complain, which we are trying to avoid. So we're trying to release something that's already working. Important part is that the bigger changes need to happen at once. That's obviously related to previously mentioned. As a developer, you will end with a situation where you either love it or hate it. So people will complain about work in progress, and the others will love that they can see under the hood what you're working with. So how to deal with that? Well, from my experience, the best is just to communicate with those people, be polite. If you start a fight, you will always lose. So you have to be honest, not promises. It's good to hear what they are saying, because sometimes they do have a point there. We are trying also to update game content gradually, so it means we are trying to release in some reasonable time, always like once a month at least. Then that helps to keep the fan base happy, because they will see you are working on the game, you didn't abandon that, or you don't care about them. Another point is that this is very different than classic environment where you have like 5 years for a product, and you can work on that, polish that, and release completely perfect. So when hiring new people, I'm trying to be very selective, because they need to know that actually this is something else. They will need to know that they're going to be used to the fact there will be lots of redoing. Also, it helps if you don't break your game too much. So if you make an unplayable game, you can be sure the players will just abandon. And sharing also helps, because if you have a lot of followers, they will really enjoy the fact that you actually share with them what you're working on. There are, however, a lot of benefits of the early access, obviously. So one of those is the contact with community. You can also take the feedback from them and apply it right immediately. So you don't have to wait for some time to actually see what the players think about the game. The environment of development team is more dynamic, and players are more engaged. They help to define the product. And the last point in this slide is very important, I think. Not sure if everyone realized, but the early access game is actually released at the beginning of the development, not at the end, as the classic products do. So this means every single developer and team can talk about it, and they can share what they have been working on. This becomes especially very frustrating in big teams where you're working on AAA games, and for those 5 years you cannot even say what you're working on. And I've seen that people have become very annoyed by that. So that's it from me. Thanks for coming, and if you have any questions, I think we can have fun. Yes, sure.
Hi. I have a question about visibility. You told that in your case, when you published the game, there was huge visibility from beginning, but I'm going to release game on early access quite soon, and we don't have idea how it looks how this visibility is dependent on marketing. I mean, I know that if you publish game on Steam finally, not in early access, then you have guaranteed 1 million of views. But I have totally no information what just after early access. Is it like everyone is coming on day one, or is it distributed amount longer time, or is it, or you think that all this publicity is because of your marketing?
To be honest, I'm not sure I can completely answer that question for you. I think in early access case, it really depends on probably on some kind of marketing, I would say, because well, in our case, we didn't really have any, because at the beginning we didn't want to have that many players at the beginning, because we knew it will be difficult to maintain that. So it actually just happened. That's, I would say, all in our case. It just happened because many people were already playing the mods, and they are so waiting for standalone. They just bought immediately. So in the first month, we just had huge growth, and obviously constantly kind of slowed down. But the game was top seller for over 6 months on Steam, which was quite huge. So I think for the early access, what matters is the contact with people. So you need to make them to share your game, and you need to basically, I think what works well for early access now is the reviews on Steam, which are, if they are positive, people will definitely try that game. But I'm not sure exactly about the thing you have asked.
Okay, thanks. One more question.
Yes.
obviously it's better not to have breaking game, but have you faced such situation when your server game stopped working for everyone?
Yes, many times. So we just have released a huge update. I think it was 2 weeks ago or something. It was like quite big one after a longer time. And we were trying to do some fixes with a patch like 2 days later, and the game just got broken and no one could join the game. So we had to fix that immediately, because otherwise people would like rage, like they would be seriously angry. So I think if you manage to break the game at some point, you just need to make sure that you fix it soon, because if you just leave it there, people will not tolerate that.
But you can push such fix to Steam immediately, or it is like you wait a few days for Steam to check each?
I'm not sure, because I'm not in charge of that, but I think you can do that immediately, almost.
Okay, thanks.
At least in our case, from what I know.
Hi, I have one question. You have released the DayZ on the early access. Do you plan to release it on Xbox One in the game preview?
Yes, it was already announced that it will go to Xbox and also to PS4.
But as a finished game or in the game preview?
I think it should go to game preview first.
Okay, thanks.
You have also mentioned that your game is obviously MMO, and you told that you have build for real users and experimental build or something like that. But I suppose that it needs to be totally separated, right?
Yes, so it's basically a branch. So in the Steam, you can choose a beta. Well, in our case, you can go to settings. You can choose a beta. You can choose experimental servers, and it will update you to a different branch, and then you will see different servers. So you can actually join on different servers.
Yeah. So, but it is game designed for thousands of people. How you don't have thousands of developers, I guess. So how this world is populated?
What do you mean?
I mean,
the players, every player can join to that experimental server.
Oh, right.
They can choose what they want.
Okay, thanks.
So you said you had nearly 200,000 of players buying the game on the day one. May I ask how big was your player peak at this day and how you handled it? I mean, as far as I know, people are launching servers by their own, right? At DayZ, or you are supporting your servers too?
Well, I think there are server providers who can run, who are allowed to run those servers, because there's some. I don't have much insight into that, but there's some requirements. So the server has to have some performance, so you don't have lags and such. So there are a list of providers who can run those servers. I think the individuals cannot run yet. Maybe in the future.
Oh, okay, okay. Okay, that's all.
Any more questions? If not, Viktor, thank you very much.
Thank you too for coming.